She is she's a master's in HRM from University of Manchester. Since she's become a part of DESCON, she's helped the HR landscape change significantly and made strides there in the DEI. Well, thank you so much for joining us, for taking out the time. Really appreciate you guys taking out the time and coming to this webinar. Without taking a lot of your time, I would like to jump right into the topic, today's topic, yeah. So DEI की हम बात कर रहे हैं, तो DEI जो है वो सिर्फ कहने को है, पॉलिसीज में है या वाकई उस पे काम भी हो रहा है. यू गाइज आर द प्रैक्टिशनर्स, आपने उसकी चेंजेस होते हुए देखी हैं. तो मैं कुछ सवालात पूछना चाहूंगी आपसे. I'd like to first start with Gull. Gul Zareen, would you like to share a personal experience how the changes in the organization, DEI changes, have helped you or impacted you positively in the organization?
First of all, am I audible?
Yeah.
So thank you so much for the introduction. It was really humbling. As far as your question is concerned, I will first share something which happened with me before or at the time of coming into the organization, and then I'd share what has personally impacted me during the journey which I've had with the organization in terms of building a more diverse and inclusive organization. So when I was coming to ENGRO Polymers, before joining, like in person, I got to know that there's somebody who's very senior in my team as a payroll master. It was like 12 years since he had retired as well. So, you know, you understand the kind of seniority. And, you know, deep inside me, there were all of these questions that, how am I going to manage him? Yeah. And those unconscious biases that, oh, because he's old, he may be taking a lot of sick leaves, he would have maybe health issues. How would I get the job done from him and all that? But all of these biases were broken. And I think he's the most productive team member that I have. He is never unwell, alhamdulillah, alhamdulillah. He's mashallah very healthy. He's extremely supportive. We in HR, you all would know, हमें ईद वाले दिन भी calls आ जाती हैं, especially if you have payroll with you. So मैं उन्हें ईद वाले दिन भी call करूँगी, तो he'd be there and, you know, he'd support. So that was something when I realized that, yes, this was a bias inside me. And I'm so thankful to Said Saab, my team member, who helped me break that bias. But what that also helped me learn was to constantly now think that what other biases unconsciously I'm harvesting or harboring in my head. So that's one bit. The second bit is the experience of the journey itself. So we are a one-of-a-kind plant in Pakistan. Organizations usually do have this unicorn syndrome, whereby they think that, oh, there's nobody like us. But this is genuinely a plant or a technology which nobody else has in Pakistan. It's a chemical process plant, and there are dangerous chemicals here which are life-threatening as well. By virtue of that, when I came here, diversity ratio was very low. And whenever I even think or start talking about it, I'd be told, नहीं, यहाँ नहीं हो सकता है, ये बड़ा dangerous है, आपको नहीं पता, यहाँ नहीं हो सकता. So, but I was given this task by a board that I have to make a 3-year strategy, a 3-year roadmap. But the challenge was कि जब तक business नहीं own करेगा, मैं खुद से कुछ नहीं कर सकती. So started researching, brought in examples of chemical process plant from Canada and US, and they were like, नहीं, ये culture ही हमारा नहीं है, हमारे culture में नहीं हो सकता, वहाँ हो सकता. So then I worked with IFC, and we got some case studies of chemical process plants in Bangladesh and India, where they had increased gender diversity more specifically. And I shared it with our management committee team and the plant team. that was the turning point for us, because
Hmm.
that's when they maybe actually realized, okay, yeah, if they can do it, then
If they
so
can,
can
we can
we.
too.
Uh,
How interesting, girl. Thank you
so
for sharing such an
from
interesting.
that point, we took the diversity, which was
Hmm.
4%
Hmm.
in the end of 2020 or the beginning of 2021 to 12%, alhamdulillah, now. So like
Um,
8% increase. Yeah.
that is a huge leap. Good job with that. We are proud of you. Way to go. अच्छा मैं नोट करी थी जब आप ये बता रही थी तो माइसा could really feel it, you know. उसका जो background है, and I think all three of you can relate to what she's saying, right? So I'd like to know, माइसा, क्या हमारे barriers होते हैं जो diversity और inclusion के, एक तो ये जो unconscious bias, as a leader to really identify what your biases are. I would, you know, commend you for accepting that, Gul. So आपके experience में, माइसा, कौन से ऐसे barriers होते हैं जो इस diversity inclusion को in its true letter and spirit नहीं possible होने देते हैं in organizations?
All right, thank you so much, Munza, firstly for having us over. And yes, I would definitely second Gul's opinions over here, because I'm actually happy to see that we have started this conversation not through explaining what D&I means for a corporate sector, but for places where it has been even tougher, historically
Hmm.
speaking. तो
Hmm.
अब आपने जिस तरह से, जैसे गुल ने भी ऐड किया, आई वुड लाइक टू सेकंड दैट अगेन. वी हैव हैड फीमेल कॉलीग्स, जहाँ पे अब हम सिर्फ कॉर्पोरेट सेक्टर की बात नहीं करेंगे. नाउ वी आर टॉकिंग अबाउट women, where we have hired them for even tougher positions. First
Hmm.
female welders, fabricators, since we are an engineering company, millwright and welders, fabricators, electricians, a position which you think would not have been for female colleagues ever, but now they're on our shop floors. So unofficially stating still, we are one of the pioneers who have the first batch of their female colleagues who are working in such a tough environment. उस पूरी सेफ्टी गियर के साथ एक वर्कशॉप पे खड़े होकर काम करना हेवी इक्विपमेंट्स के साथ, आई थिंक दैट इज वन बैरियर वेयर women have already started breaking.
Hmm.
Now this
Hmm.
is something I would now say it's more about the mindset. Our unconscious biases are more about our mindset. It's a belief that we need to understand. We need to question ourselves and give this answer to ourselves itself कि biases जो है ना वो सिर्फ हमारे दिमाग में, it's a mindset that we have कि खवातीन
Hmm.
ये काम नहीं कर सकती, yeah, this environment is not suitable for our female colleagues. We
Hmm.
need to have more safer, or what could be a more diplomatic term, a more supportive environment for our female colleagues. But on the other hand, I'm seeing females who are not from a very average background, yet they're
Hmm.
so determined to be who they are, and they're so acceptable to the challenges that they have, and they're breaking it themselves. So I think
Great.
it's firstly about the mindset. सबसे पहले तो हमें अपना mindset develop करना चाहिए कि this is not something that is just an agenda कि just for the sake of it, because it's a global norm. McKinsey ने कह दिया, या Gallup ने कह दिया कि it's a survey that D&I are having an impact over the numbers. It's a mindset that we need to believe in कि this is doable.
हाँ, और अब कितनी आपने खूबसूरत बात की कि ये खुद को बैरियर्स ब्रेक करने पड़ेंगे, कोई और आके नहीं करने वाला ब्रेक. सो आई लव दैट.
Exactly.
एंड वासिफ, टू यू, एंड थैंक यू फॉर योर पेशेंस. फर्स्ट ऑफ ऑल, यू आर द पेशेंट वन, आई नो दैट, सो इसीलिए आपको मैंने आखिर में रखा. तो आप मुझे ये बताएं, वासिफ, कि कैसे हम एक कल्चर को, एक कंड्यूसिव कल्चर कैसे बना सकते हैं. गुल अहमद में कौन सी ऐसी आप इनिशिएटिव्स ले रहे हैं दैट इज providing that kind of environment for people to feel more included and they feel like they belong?
Firstly, thank you, Muzna, for inviting me as well. Usually, the stereotyping is that whenever there is a topic regarding diversity and inclusion, there would be a female panelist. So you are already breaking certain barriers, and you have allowed me to be one of the speaker. Thank you so much for that. Secondly, I also felt कि आप थोड़ा सा जल्दी में हैं और आप सारे क्वेश्चंस एक साथ हम पे थ्रो कर रही हैं. मैं थोड़ा सा जो है वो अप्रिशिएट करना चाहूंगा गुलजरीन को और माइसा को, बिकॉज इन्होंने राइट अवे जो है वो topics like stereotyping, unconscious biasness, and also women on unconventional roles, इनको बहुत ही जो है वो क्रिस्प तरीके से एक्सप्लेन कर दिया कि how we can actually improve the overall diversity and inclusion situation in any organization. However, before moving on to what we are doing at Gull Ahmed, I also have a certain perspective. That's my own perspective about diversity and inclusion. And since when you actually invited me for this particular session, I actually had that thing in my mind that I will make sure that I'll share those ideas with all of them. And there's a high probability that a lot of you, including the panelists, they might won't agree to it, but this is how I take diversity as a whole. And then I'll come back to your question. I'll be taking a little bit more of a time. Please excuse me,
Oh,
Maisa and Gulzari, for that.
no, go ahead,
Uh,
go ahead. We'd like to hear a
yeah,
man's perspective.
it's more of a
I was
commercial
just,
perspective. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah, yeah.
I won't say it's a man's
Nahi, nahi.
perspective, but since I work for Gull textile mills industry, it's from the textile sector, and in
Absolutely,
textile
yeah.
sector, concepts like diversity and inclusion are still evolving, and it's a long journey. And although we were lucky that we were given that mandate to actually start off that journey 5 years ago, that's why we are at some place. But it's a long journey. I won't say that we have done wonderful job here. It's a lot can be done here. But I feel that we as a human being, we were always fond of diversity and inclusion. It's something that we never explored uh, in particular when we started giving it names like diversity and inclusion and words like unconscious biasness and stereotyping and other things. I
Mm.
feel that when we were kids, when our father or our parents were kids, even then, whenever they want to take any decision, they always used to include their sisters, their brothers, their wives, whoever the family member they have. They like to take their opinion. So I feel my perspective of diversity altogether is that it's more about diverse perspectives and including others' opinion rather than it's more about gender, race, or ethnicity. And
Mm.
human being by nature, they were fond of collective wisdom. They like to actually discuss this thing. Either it's a political affair, or it's a religious affair, or it's your personal affair. But with
Mm.
time, when we also tried to actually label it with different names, maybe
Mm.
it made us confused of it. So that's
Mm.
why in my organization, when I talk about Gul, our key value was always to actually work together or to collaborate or to believe in collective wisdom. So when
Mm.
we actually have to work here on diversity and inclusion, and usually, like most of the companies, in our company, we also focus on actually increasing gender ratio and also on increasing PWD's ratio, people with disability. But
Mm.
you actually have to take start from somewhere. So that's the place where from where we actually have taken our start. And and just because we have that business case of collaboration and togetherness and kind of using collective wisdom to make effective decisions, then it was kind of an easy task for us to
Mm.
actually sell it to the people over here, to our
Mm.
management, and to the world as
Mm.
so I've taken a bit of your more time just because to actually tell other people that how you can make a business case out of it. Because in this commercial world, everybody is actually trying to get a return of whatever the initiatives are. So
That's
that's how we came up with that particular commercial ROI or business case.
that's a beautiful perspective to how you look at it, and I really like how you mentioned that diverse opinions is, kind of like it supersedes diversity, just because we feel like diversity is genders and diversity is coming from different backgrounds. And when while you mentioned that, would you also like to, and you did not take a lot of time, right? So
Yeah.
yeah, just to get it out of there. So just I would also like to know, how are you incorporating, or how are you working on the culture so everyone uh, gets this vision that you have in the organization? Are there something, is there something tangible happening? How do people know that diversity is this in Gul Ahmed?
थैंक यू सो मच आपने ये सवाल पूछ लिया था ताकि जो मैं बात करने वाला था that will make it easy. Actually, initially when we started this journey 5 years ago, we were more focused on numbers. We thought that diversity is more of actually having as X number of percentage in your organization. But since it was a journey and we were also evolving, so we decided to actually came up with a strategy because a lot of work has already been done by IFC or other women empowerment. If you see women empowerment principle, and there are so many other things that are available if you want to actually refer to them to know that what kind of initiatives you should take in your organization and how you can actually bring that change. So we actually did the same thing. We took some inspiration from IFC as well, from women empowerment principles as well. And also we actually hired a consultant in our organization who actually have conducted a certain study to identify that what gaps are there. Either it's related to uh, family-friendly policies, or it's related to actually how to actually give people an opportunity to raise their voice and stuff like that. But that is something that's a strategic part of that program. The tangible part where people can actually could see that what's going on is can only be seen when you are actually getting those people into uh, initiatives जो कि clearly indicate कर रहे हो कि you are up for diversity. For instance, actually conducting training and awareness sessions, educating your leadership and your people on those amazing things that Maisa and Zareen were mentioning, like stereotyping, unconscious biasness, also educating them that how to actually uh, the tricky part is that we used to conduct those trainings for all the employees, but when you are actually specifying it for people with disabilities or female gender, you actually have to redo all your training modules because maybe receiving feedback and giving feedback for PWDs is a lot
Very
different from what you can do for other people.
Yeah.
Same is the case with females as well. Because the usually interviews में जो है when I was very young, usually interviews में खवातीन से ये सवाल बड़े easily पूछ लिया जाता था कि are you married or single, आपके बच्चे कितने हैं? जब आप काम पे आती हैं तो बच्चे कौन देखता है? तो वो जो पर्टिकुलर अनकॉन्शियस बायसनेस है और वो जो और साथ में ये काइंड ऑफ एक ऑफेंसिव क्वेश्चन है फ्रॉम अ फीमेल कि पूरी दुनिया तो उससे पूछ रही है कि तुम्हारे बच्चे कौन देख रहा है. अब जो इंटरव्यू करने वाला है वो भी पूछेगा कि तुम्हारे बच्चे कौन देखता है.
जी,
तो तो वो विद टाइम हमने एजुकेट अपने आप को भी किया, दूसरों को भी करते हैं, जिससे लोगों को पता चलता है कि हम बहुत सीरियस हैं इसके बारे में. लेकिन इससे ज्यादा इंपॉर्टेंट है रोल मॉडलिंग. अगर माय कंपनी सीईओ won't be actually accepting any candidates panel जिसके अंदर 33% एटलीस्ट जो है वो फीमेल रिप्रेजेंटेशन ना हो, तो वो एक क्लियर मैसेज दे देता है हमारे तमाम लीडर्स को कि हमें जेंडर डाइवर्सिटी को इम्प्रूव करना है. तो इट्स मोर अबाउट के हमारी कुछ पॉलिसीज ऐसी डिजाइन हुई, हमने कुछ इनिशिएटिव ऐसे लिए लोगों की वेल बीइंग के लिए, फीमेल्स को सपोर्टिंग वर्क स्पेस प्रोवाइड करने के लिए. वी केम अप विद सर्टेन थिंग्स जो कि हैं बड़ी बेसिक, मतलब चाइल्ड केयर रूम होना या मैटरनिटी बेनिफिट होना या हेल्थ इंश्योरेंस की पॉलिसी होना या फ्लेक्सिबल वर्किंग आवर्स होना, या वंस के इंडिविजुअल इज कमिंग बैक फ्रॉम हर मैटरनिटी लीव तो उसको किस तरह का रेस्ट एरिया देना है और उसको किस तरह फ्लेक्सिबिलिटी देनी है, ये सब है, सब बेसिक, एवरीबॉडी नोज अबाउट इट.
Right.
But people believe it when they see it. So that's it. We haven't done anything extraordinary. We just did basic things. खवातीन जो है वो लांडी इंडस्ट्रियल एरिया में जहाँ हमारी फैक्ट्रीज है वहां पे नहीं आती, क्योंकि लोग मतलब इवन के जब मैं अपने अगर मेरे मैं अपने बेटे को अगर मुझे भेजना हो लांडी इंडस्ट्रियल एरिया तो मैं परेशान हो जाऊं. तो मैं तो वो लड़कियां इतनी दूर कैसे आएंगी, तो उनको उनको घर से पिक एंड ड्रॉप सर्विस देना, दे आर ऑल बेसिक थिंग्स. बोलने में दे आर ऑल बेसिक बट दे क्रिएट डिफरेंस. तो दीज आर थिंग्स. बाकी मुझना आप हमारे यहाँ आई थी, हमने एक वेलनेस कैंपेन चलाते हैं हम 2-3 महीने हर, तो वो इसीलिए करते हैं ताकि सपोर्टिव वर्क प्लेस और वेलनेस के ऊपर हम ज्यादा से ज्यादा काम करें.
ज्यादा बात
एंड आई
करें.
एम सो
बिल्कुल.
सॉरी आई हैव टेकन सो मच टाइम. आई एम सो सॉरी फॉर
नहीं,
दैट. At the time.
why would you be so apologizing? Not at all. Thank you so much. So, Gull, he's spoken about unconscious bias and micro microaggressions and stereotyping, all of that, right? So अब बहुत ज़्यादा एक organizations में trend है कि sensitization हो रही है और respect की बात हो रही है काम पे, जो कि पहले नहीं होती थी बिल्कुल भी, और बहुत सारी चीजें उस पे surface होती हैं जो people then feel insecure that can we not even do this or that, and there is this environment of everyone's scared, what if they're going to be complained about, तो अब तो किसी से मजाक नहीं कर सकते हैं, कुछ कह नहीं सकते हैं, so on and so forth. How are you guys managing it in the organization? क्योंकि अब trainings तो run हो रही हैं, sensitization तो हो रही है, लेकिन उसके after effects कैसे manage हो रहे हैं organization में, उसका क्या impact है?
So, first of all, thank you so much, Wasif, because he's very beautifully elaborated how we have to create an entire ecosystem in order to ensure that we can have diverse population. So talking about sensitization, when again, I'll go back to 2020, I had just joined ENGRO Polymers, and there was lots of conversation that it was more of a chicken and egg situation, that will you first create the culture and then bring the diverse talent, or will you first bring the diverse talent and then let the culture evolve on its own? We decided at that time that both things have to go hand in hand, and you will have to introduce diverse talent, because you can't teach somebody how to swim only through training. So they'll have to have diverse talent and daily interactions with them. And during that, if they'd be sensitized and there'd be, we'd all share how to, deal with diverse talent and be more inclusive, more tolerant, then the culture would automatically get created as well. And you so rightly pointed out that these trainings that we conduct on sensitization, they would always necessarily have some sort of conversation on harassment and bullying and, such instances where you can, a manager can very conveniently feel, oh my God, if this is all attached with bringing in diverse talent, I'd be rather left alone and wouldn't want to maybe do that. So to cater to that, we are taking multiple steps. Number one, we try to ensure that we do not create diversity fatigue in the organization. And when I say diversity fatigue, it is that if I'm only and always talking about diversity, it's gonna, वो blabbering लगना शुरू हो जाएगी और लोग तंग आना शुरू हो जाएंगे. तो वो तबलीग हम जरा कोशिश करते हैं कि difference of time पे करें, different instances पे करें. Secondly, when we are talking about harassment, we also give people, because there are lots of questions, people would ask that, oh, do you mean that I cannot joke with my colleague? Or does it mean that I joke with somebody today and then 10 days later that person files a complaint against me? How does that work? So in our sensitization training and harassment conversation, we talk about staying professional always. And that is one thing which can keep you out of trouble. And that goes both ways for females as well as males. So while we're talking to our colleagues that, these are the don'ts, we're also talking about the do's. That is setting your boundaries right from the first day as a female. So if a joke can bother me 10 days later, I should set my boundaries right from the outset. And this goes for males as well. There's a lot of male-to-male bullying and harassment as well. Somehow the conversation also always comes as if it is between two genders. And also it can be reverse as well, female bullying or harassing a male colleague. So we talk about setting boundaries. And there's one thing that we have a lot of conversation about at Polymers, and that is making it easy to work with diverse talent, right? So जैसा हम अपने business के बारे में कहते हैं ease of doing business, with Polymers we also say ease of working with diverse talent, and that happens when you ensure that there's lots of positive interaction happening between all the diverse groups of people. And one thing, the last thing that I would want to mention, somehow whenever we are having conversations around sensitization, stereotyping and all, hum sort of we always think about females, at best people with different abilities. the stereotypes which men have to face, they're all ignored. And just a couple of days ago, we celebrated November, which is because November is a men's mental health month.
Mm.
And we talked about these stereotypes, these extra pressures which men also face. लड़के कभी रोते नहीं हैं, treat की advertisement थी, the best a man can get. You know, that toxic masculine image that the society has created. And to kind of cater to that, Wasif ne bhi word use kiya. We are focusing a lot on family-friendly policies in order to ensure that the role which is somehow in our society or the globe overall, which is ascribed to only females, that they are the caregivers and men are the hunter-gatherer, which was, the pre-evolutionary concept. We're trying to introduce family-friendly policies where we are giving paternity leave and all, so that we tell that, yes, it's a man's job as well to take care of the kids. So yeah.
That's true. Thank you. And I'm so glad that you all we are having such an enlightened conversation here. That you're doing my job for me. Yay. Thank you. So I really appreciate all the points that you touched upon, how you're dealing with it. Maisa, my question to you is that when we talk about all these things, that the people who are listening, would you like to share a few tips with them कि ऐसे करने से we can ensure, they can also ensure कि workplace is a everyone's included and everyone's welcome. So ऐसी क्या 2-4 चीजें कर सकते हैं हम
Sure, Muzna. Yeah, sure. So as far as the policies are concerned, I don't think कि हर workplace में हर तरह की policy available होगी, and like we have said, this is something that is constantly evolving. So one very important role that people play in the organization is the role of a line manager. How are they going to be dealing at every position with each and every of their team members? I think, for example, for us, let's just say for work-life balance, we still don't have a flexi working hour policy as per se. But even then, we have our line managers who have such relationships with us that if we need to work from home, we're allowed to do that. And even whenever we have such policies where government implies an implication कि आप घर से काम करें because of smog or whatever, our line managers are flexible enough to allow for this. In a similar fashion, I think the role of line managers becomes very important in trying to make a workplace diverse. It's not just an HR agenda, या आप सिर्फ leaders से नहीं expect कर सकते कि leadership से onwards आना शुरू होगा, it will be a flow from top to bottom. It is every individual's responsibility. So myself as a line manager, I need to be aware of what my team members actually need, whether he's a male or whether she's a female. If they want to work from home, I should be allowed and they should be allowed to do the same, and in a similar fashion. And that is, I think, what is the most important thing that needs to be taken care of when it comes to the role of every individual line manager.
So maybe there aren't many policies, लेकिन अगर आप we understand that there's this human factor, of course, when we come to work, and allow people to have either work from home or a couple of days where they're not as productive as they otherwise are. So understanding, and यहाँ पे एक हमारे जो participant हैं, उन्होंने लिखा था कि empathy बड़ी जरूरी है to make people feel like they're included. तो आप भी वही बात
Exactly. We need to consider that every person is coming with a different challenge. अगर वो अपने strengths लेकर आ रहे हैं, they're also coming to the workplace with their own challenges as well. तो थोड़ा सा customization आपको ये अपने individual level पे करनी है. Not everything can be clearly stated down in your policies. It has to be something that should be delivered from your end as well.
Muzna, can I add something to?
Please go ahead.
Yeah. अच्छा, मैं Maisa से काफी हद तक एग्री करता हूँ, because it's not necessary कि हर जगह पे आपके पास एक पॉलिसी फ्रेमवर्क या एक स्ट्रेटजी स्ट्रक्चर मौजूद हो, or you cannot just wait for that thing कि it will, once that will be done, then we'll start actually promoting diversity and inclusion. However, I also feel that जो हम education का या training का part करते हैं, either वो gender sensitization से related हो या फिर overall diversity and inclusion का हो, it's very important कि हम अपने leaders को जो है वो इस चीज से भी train और aware करें कि what kind of challenges they will actually face once they get into this diversity and inclusion thing. because once they know the challenges, they will be actually having those solutions in hand. Just the way Maisa just told us that if somebody or if I am the line manager of a department, and if somebody comes to me with a certain problem, beside the fact that which gender, race, or ethnicity that person is from, I, as a human being, I actually have to provide that person a certain solution to it without actually hampering or without actually sacrificing work as well. That's the reality of the work. So policy frameworks and stuff like these things actually ease those things. But if it's not there, just educating your line manager will actually work for you, because then they will exactly know that how to react to those situations. That's my point on.
थैंक यू। तो आपने बिल्कुल, मेरा अगला पॉइंट यही था कि लीडर्स को क्या करना चाहिए इसके लिए, जो कि आपने उसको यू टच्ड अपॉन इट। सो माय फेवरेट टॉपिक इज डाइवर्सिटी, एंड व्हेन आई टॉक अबाउट डाइवर्सिटी, तो मेरा थोड़ा सा इस पे अनकन्वेंशनल एक टेक है जो मैं आप लोगों से शेयर करूं, एंड देन यू कैन टेल मी व्हाट यू थिंक अबाउट इट। वी टॉक अबाउट डाइवर्सिटी, तो हम जेंडर डाइवर्सिफिकेशन की बात करते हैं, हम डिफरेंट बैकग्राउंड से लोग आ रहे हैं उसके बारे में बात करते हैं, हम पीपल विद डिसेबिलिटीज उनके बारे में बात करते हैं, बट व्हाट अबाउट पीपल who are just, who are neurodivergent for that matter? हम उनके लिए कितनी inclusive जगह जो है वो create कर रहे हैं? Is this a conversation that is happening? Are we talking about how there are certain people who cannot function in certain arrangements, and how we can be more understanding of their personality types, and understanding of the fact that we don't always have to agree on the same thing, and that certain people have certain ways of getting things done. ये भी तो एक डाइवर्सिटी है ना। तो इस पे हम कैसे ऑर्गेनाइजेशन में, हाउ कैन वी मेक इट इजी फॉर पीपल हु आर न्यूरो डाइवर्जेंट फॉर दैट मैटर, या जिनके देखने का सोचने का बड़ा अनकन्वेंशनल सा तरीका है, बट दे आर प्रोडक्टिव मेंबर्स ऑफ द ऑर्गेनाइजेशन। एनीवन? जी
can I? Okay, Wasif, you go ahead.
No, Gull, you answer it, then I'll add into it.
Thank you, Ji. So, Muzna, देखो, it's a very pertinent point. पहली चीज तो ये है कि न्यूरल डाइवर्सिटी को अंडरस्टैंड करने में हम एज अ नेशन ही बहुत पीछे हैं अभी, राइट? तो जो कुछ organizations are a sum total of what is happening outside. तो वो तो definitely एक challenge है to firstly understand that there are people who are standing on the different spectrum in terms of their mental capabilities and abilities. Having said that, इस वक्त जो न्यूरल डाइवर्सिटी बहुत ज्यादा आ रही है, वो डिफरेंट जनरेशंस के वर्क प्लेस में होने की वजह से भी बहुत ज्यादा आ रही है. So, when we look at our demographics, we have only 2 baby boomers in the organization who would be retiring in a couple of years. We have a very small chunk of Gen X, but that Gen X is sitting in the decision-making positions. The largest chunk we have is the millennials, and then we have roughly 25 to 30% of Gen Z already in the organization. And we know that the perspective towards life and work is very different when it comes to Gen Z and millennials and Gen X. So for us as millennials, I call ourselves the superhero infected generation, because हम बड़े ही superhero cartoons देखते हुए हुए थे, तो हमारे अंदर ना heroism और hero अपने आप को prove करने का बहुत ज्यादा एक शौक है, जिसकी वजह से हम वर्क प्लेस मार्टर्स भी अक्सर बनते हैं. हमें लेट से बैठने का शौक होता है, मैंने तो छुट्टी नहीं ली, मैंने तो एनुअल्स नहीं ली, ये चीजें हम बहुत प्राउडली बोस्ट ऑफ करते हैं. And then we have Gen Z coming in, who were watching cartoons like Eddie and Eddie, where even basic hygiene was not being followed. And you can, where you can, sometimes you can see it actually there in them. And I was listening to this video.
अगर कोई Gen Z सुन रहा होगा, वो stereotyping कहेगा इसको.
बिल्कुल कहेगा. And I'll come back to that bit as well. So I was listening to this talk, which was vibing with Gen Z, and the talk was exactly on what Wasif just said, that there are so many stereotypes which are there in terms of how Gen Z is behaving and how Gen Y is behaving, and can they vibe together or can they not vibe together. So how we are trying to cater to that is by creating a more inclusive culture. So when we are doing our sensitization training, we're not saying that this training is for gender diverse population or PWD diverse population. We just say diverse other. So that's the term that we use. And that then makes it so inclusive, because that diverse other can literally be anyone. And the concept comes to my mind whenever I'm talking about it, again, through the cartoons which I watch my kids watching on the TV, where even banana has legs and emotions, right? Pizza has legs and emotions. And that is why these kids are way more inclusive than we are. And that's the culture that we're trying to bring into the organization, that it does not matter. Sometimes people look exactly like you, but they're not like you.
But
and our fingerprints are the biggest example that each one of us is unique, yet each one of us is alike. So we celebrate those differences, but we want to converge on the similarities. So that's how we're looking at it.
ठीक है जी, ठीक है. Thank you so much. Brilliantly summed it up for us. Wasif, do you have anything that you'd like to add to this?
Yes, she actually have covered almost everything, but I'll take you guys back to the initial thing that what I said about actually diversity is more about actually coming up with different perspectives. So
Right.
if an organization or a department has a certain cause, unfortunately or fortunately, you can't change difficult circumstances. The only thing that you can do is to actually create opportunities, or to actually change the approach of it, or change the perspective out of it. So if you have diverse team, either it's due to the generation thing, or the age thing, or gender thing, or anything, it will actually help you in actually coming up with new opportunities, new ideas, and new perspectives. And my whole life is all about that. Whenever I'm in any problem or in a difficult situation, that's what I do. That's why we make teams and collaborative groups where we have a lot of experienced individual present in that group and a newbie in that group. And you'll be surprised to know that that newbie most of the time does wonders. So diversity is all about that, and if we see it as in with those spectacles, that it's more about actually having different approach and different perspective, then things are a bit easy. So that's my take.
Thank you.
That's very I would also like to add a point over here. When you're talking about neurodiversity, it's something we're just trying to maybe complicate things a lot, because ultimately when we're sitting together and we're working on an assignment, there's a question that we're trying to solve. And as long as we're communicating, we are open with our communication, we tend to solve it no matter what. We need to have that business impact. Ultimately, that is what the goal is. So there's no I don't think it makes a huge impact whether it does not create any barriers, to be honest, but rather, like what Wasif said, diversity itself that helps you generate ideas. That is what it is for. And when you're there, when you're on the table to solve certain problems, you end up coming up with different solutions.
That's true. And how about we all think about the fact that, if we just understand that there's this end goal that we have to meet, and however people want to reach to that goal, as long as they're competent, then we should be flexible enough to allow them. I see a lot of the times that the senior management, unfortunately, is tweaking an email according to their likes. However, everyone has their own style of writing an email, communicating. I think if we just let go some things, and we do not kill that uniqueness in individuals, then we allow people to breathe and grow within the organization, feel like they're valued. So if we can focus on that, I feel like, so just the fact that, a lot of empathy, acceptance, understanding, and communication, like Maisa, you mentioned, that's so important. Communication, I think, is the antidote for all the problems in the world. अच्छा communication, है ना? ठीक है जी, थैंक यू सो मच. अच्छा, मैं एक आखिरी सवाल पूछूंगी, और ये सवाल वापस अनकॉन्शियस बायस पे आ गया. अब अनकॉन्शियस बायस के साथ लगा हुआ है अनकॉन्शियस. इसको हम कैसे केटर करें? गुल, बहुत कम लोग होते हैं, आप भी अग्री करेंगे, जो अपने अनकॉन्शियस बायसेस पे रिफ्लेक्ट करते हुए उनको इम्प्रूव करते हैं. क्योंकि वो अनकॉन्शियस बायस होते हैं, तो दे जस्ट गो बाय, वी लिव with them for all our lives, and we do not or open up or become very defensive if someone identifies that this is the problem that we have. How can we work on our unconscious bias? हम सब हर लेवल पे होता है, हर किसी के पास होता है, हम उसको कैसे खत्म करें ताकि हम ज्यादा एक इंक्लूसिव एनवायरनमेंट बनाएं? Who would like to? Anyone?
So again, I'd like to go. देखो, पहले तो ये समझना बहुत जरूरी है कि अनकॉन्शियस का मतलब क्या है. अनकॉन्शियस का मतलब ये है कि इस टाइम पे, सिर्फ इस टाइम पे मेरी बॉडी millions of things are being absorbed, right? What's my heart rate? What's my blood sugar level? How's my heart beating? You know, all this information. What sounds are there in the background? What lights are on? What all are names written on the screen and everything. But my brain chooses to focus on a few things, right? However, the rest is being absorbed. It's not that it's just going into an empty space. It is being absorbed. And so that is creating, you know, a lot of memory in my head. It is creating lots of experiences in my head. So hence, because of that, whenever I have a new experience, our brain, which is essentially a lazy organism, it tries to not use the prefrontal cortex too much and wants to bring back the previous experience and interpret the new experience through that, which then creates a lot of distortions in whatever experience that we are having. And that's where the unconscious bias comes from. अब ये बहुत ही एक नोडी सी बात मैंने की है. ऑब्वियसली ये अगर मैं अपने शॉप फ्लोर सुपरवाइजर को जाके बताऊंगा तो कहेगा बीबी आधी सटक चुकी है और इस तरह की बातें इसलिए कर रही है. सो वी हैव टू देन ब्रेक द कॉन्वर्सेशन डाउन टू देयर लेवल. और उसमें जो बहुत जरूरी चीज है वो ये कि हर आप लोगों को समझाएं through your sensitization training, through your normal conversation as well, that we all have a mirror inside us. बस जरूरी ये है कि हम उस शीशे में बार बार देखते रहे. वो शीशा हमें बता देता है कि यार मैं इस सिचुएशन को किस तरह से इंटरप्रेट कर रहा हूँ, क्या मेरी कोई पुरानी सोच आके इस नए एक्सपीरियंस को खराब कर रही है या नहीं. सो एक चीज तो ये है कि ऑर्गेनाइजेशंस को लोगों को ट्रेन करना पड़ेगा पहले टू अंडरस्टैंड कि एक चीज होती है अनकॉन्शियस बायस और फिर उससे कॉन्स्टेंटली फाइट करना है. दूसरा फिर इंडिविजुअल की अपनी जिम्मेदारी है कि उसने अपने आप को, वी हैव टू पुट आवरसेल्व्स आउट देयर टू एक्सपीरियंस मल्टीपल न्यू एक्सपीरियंसेस, बिकॉज तभी न्यू न्यूरल नेटवर्क्स क्रिएट होते हैं और उसकी जैसे हमारी पुरानी बायसेस जो है वो ग्रेजुअली रिमूव होती है. जब तक आप डाइवर्स लोगों के साथ काम नहीं करेंगे, अगेन मैं आपको पूल के किनारे पे खड़े होकर जितना मर्जी समझा लूंगी कि ये होता है, जब तक आप जंप नहीं करेंगे आपको समझ नहीं आएगी कि एक्चुअल में क्या होता है. So people will have to put themselves out there to experience new things. The way I worked with a very senior colleague in my team, and that changed my perspective. जो ageism मेरे जहन में था वो निकला. तो नए experiences obviously आपको unconscious bias पे help करते हैं. Third and last from my side, because you know there is a whole plethora, but I'll just stick to 3. Third one is then taking constant feedback. You know, जैसा कल ही मेरी अपनी एक टीम मेंबर से बात हो रही थी and we were talking about this jokes वाला aspect कि कभी लोग एक joke ले लेते हैं और कभी एक same joke बुरा लग जाता है, तो what's the way out? So she said that I have a simple rule of thumb. मेरी टीम में diverse लोग भी हैं तो मैं उनसे हर कुछ से बात पूछ लेती हूँ, okay with my jokes. I hope they're not very offensive. या मैं कुछ ऐसा कर तो नहीं रही जिसकी वजह से तुम्हें you feeling at your edge.
Yeah.
And that then helps a lot. So maybe constant feedback can help us understand कि कुछ चीजें मेरी unconscious bias में आ रही हैं जिसकी वजह से मैं लोगों को stereotype कर रही हूँ या you know I'm saying something which people really don't appreciate.
That's very nice. आप बिल्कुल सही कह रही हैं. Feedback is so important, and if you're open to feedback, then I think a lot of your unconscious biases they come to the front, and you realize that this is happening and how I can work. And of course, वही जो हमारी preconceived notions होती हैं, उन्हीं की वजह से हम ये सब कर रहे होते हैं. हमें खुद realize नहीं होता. जी वासिफ.
जी. अच्छा, एक चीज है जो कि अनकॉन्शियस बायसनेस को समझाने के लिए बहुत ही आसान लगती है मुझे whenever we actually conduct trainings in our organization. And that is mainly related to कि जब हम अपनी पर्सनल लाइफ में जाते हैं और अगर हमें पता चलता है कि कोई इंडिविजुअल जो है वो घर में खाना भी खुद बनाता है, चाय भी खुद बनाता है, अपने कपड़े भी खुद धोता है, तो जो मर्द हजरात होते हैं वो यूजली उस इंडिविजुअल का मजाक उड़ा रहे होते हैं
Hmm.
अनकॉन्शियसली अनकॉन्शियसली। वो कुछ पर्टिकुलर जॉब्स को स्टीरियोटाइप कर रहे होते हैं कि ये तो शायद इनके ये इन साहब के करने की काम नहीं है।
True.
अब अनफॉर्चुनेटली और फॉर्चुनेटली हम अपने जो आने वाली जनरेशन है या जो अभी गुज़श्ता जनरेशन है उनको जब हम ब्रॉट अप कर रहे होते हैं, तो इट्स वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट कि जो फादर्स हैं वो, क्योंकि ये जो एक्चुअली ऑर्गेनाइजेशन जो है ना वो लोगों की तरबियत नहीं कर सकती, वो उनको काइंड ऑफ एजुकेट कर सकती है या ट्रेनिंग दे सकती है। ये काम
Hmm.
जो है वो एक्चुअली जो शुरू होता है घर से। तो
Hmm.
क्योंकि यहाँ पे एक काइंड ऑफ अ व्यूअर्स मौजूद हैं और शायद बाद में आप ये रिकॉर्ड करेंगे तो लोग और भी देखेंगे, तो इट्स वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट कि हाउ वी आर रेजिंग आवर किड्स, दैट्स वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट।
True.
रादर एक्चुअली टेलिंग गर्ल्स नॉट टू डू दैट जॉब, इट्स मोर इंपॉर्टेंट इज टू टेल योर बॉयज टू डू ऑल दैट स्टफ बिकॉज इट्स योर वर्क। सो
That's
अनकॉन्शियस बायसेस को कम करने के लिए एक तो
uh,
यू रेजिंग योर नेक्स्ट जनरेशन, दैट्स वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट, एंड सेकेंडली स्टॉप मेकिंग दोज जोक्स because if you are not doing it, at least somebody is doing it, you should appreciate.
you
that's
should appreciate.
that's
थैंक यू फॉर सेइंग दैट। हमारी ऑडियंस जो यहाँ पे सुन रही है, आई एम श्योर कि अच्छा लगता है सुनते हुए ये सब बातें कि और एंड द फैक्ट दैट इट स्टार्ट्स फ्रॉम होम, इट रियली डज ऑल ऑफ इट। तो अगर हम आज बच्चों को इन बातों को समझाएंगे, सिखाएंगे, तो उनको पता ही नहीं होगा कि ये बाइसेस होते भी हैं, राइट? All right. Okay. So now there are a lot of questions coming in, and I am going to ask you guys the questions that people have been asking. So here we go. The first one is someone's interested in knowing. Ashraf wants to know about your flexi hour policy. Do you guys have flexi hour policy? You guys have it?
It's
If
in the
you
making,
would
it's in
like.
the final stages. We have the flexi hour policy. It's coming. Yeah.
Okay, lovely, great. Anyone who would like to share their flexi hour policy? What
uh,
it's like?
we have a flexi hour policy. It's been there for so many years, but we think that it's now outdated because of new type of requirements coming to us, especially post COVID. Because
Mm.
we actually had a flexi hour policy that you actually have, you just have to complete your number of hours in a
Uh,
week.
okay.
But
So nice.
I feel we still have the same thing, but I feel that we need to redo it because now people are going for more of hybrid models as well, work from home model as well. We follow the same thing what Maisa actually mentioned earlier, that whenever there's a need, we give them work from home, we give them hybrid working model, but it's not like that it's part of our policy. We are working on it. Our
Mm.
flexible policy only allows people to actually complete their dedicated hours in a week. They can
Mm.
complete it in 4 days, 5 days, which is not humanly possible, but they actually have to complete those hours and then do that. That's it.
So
Right.
I'm we have actually both the sides in terms of plant, because our plant is located in Port Qasim, and because we give door-to-door commute to all of our employees. तो plant पे flexi hours उस तरह से नहीं है, and because of the HSE risk, plant पे attendance system भी बहुत strong है. We need to know who all is at the plant, just so that if there's an emergency, then we can cater to that. But in terms of the corporate offices, we don't have any attendance machine, which can then tell you that there's no bar on, there's no number of hours which is decided. The payroll is not even calculated on the basis of the numbers of days that you have attended. So it's agnostic of the fact. So there's a lot of flexibility over there. And the way Maisa mentioned, that it's really between the line manager and the employee, how they want to take the work relationship forward. So yeah.
Okay, great. So there's another question from all three of you. How can we apply that participants are asking? I'm just kidding. So another question. How is the management and leadership paving way for more diversity in their boardrooms and C-suites?
So I think in terms of boardroom, because we are a registered company, HCCP has certain guidelines by virtue of which you have to have a diverse board member. So that comes from there. But other than that, at our organization, we have taken a sandwich approach, which means that we know that if we want to have a lot of impact on the policy making, we need to have women in the leadership position. But if we want to have scale, then we need to have number in those positions where the headcount is huge. So to increase scale, आपको नीचे technical roles में females introduce करनी पड़ेंगी, जहाँ पे जैसे माइसा ने भी mention किया था initially, there are lots of stereotypes कि बंदियाँ नहीं काम कर सकती. And then, also if you'll have more females in the leadership position, that creates lots of positive role models for females who are working in the middle management position or even in the junior technician roles. So this is how we are trying. Our CFO is female. We are very proud of that. And she's purely there because of merit. At ENGRO, we are very clear that merit tops everything. Nobody is ever given a diversity card. So this is how we are introducing more diversity in the top level. Or obviously, we also understand that because हमारा plant again, as I would say, हमें locally talent नहीं मिलता, हम बहुत ज़्यादा talent import नहीं करते, so we have to develop our own talent. Therefore, हमने अपनी pipeline को बहुत diverse कर दिया है. So we hire GTEs. Right now we have 50% female GTEs. Last year जिनकी confirmation हुई है वो 40% हैं. Inshallah, very soon, they'd start coming into the technical roles and then technical management roles as well. Similarly, jo technician side, we hired 57 TAs, which is trade apprentices, jo DE ke route se aate hain, jisme again hamari 30% to 35% jo hai, wo female population hai. So that's when you're going to see a lot of females on the shop floor as well. And, in terms of leadership, I've already mentioned.
Muzna, I would also like to add here something. So for DESCON engineering, like Gull has already mentioned, so we already have a pipeline that is from the GTs coming. We have a female-only graduate trainee program that was introduced last year. So we're converting them into full-time now as well. We have had, currently we don't have any female colleague in our leadership, unfortunately. However, it's being created in such a manner that we have introduced a mentorship program, which is going to plan on bringing our future leaders to where women are going to be part of this program. Also, we already have 6 of our female colleagues who are already heading the different domains within DESCON engineering. So that is one step very close to leadership. They are very close to being the next leaders at DESCON engineering. So there is this, like Gull has already mentioned, there is a pipeline that has already been introduced. Not that we currently have any female leaders, but we already have a pipeline of female leaders coming up.
I also want to add few things.
जी आपसे आपके लिए एक सवाल भी आया है, आप बताइएगा, फिर आपसे सवाल करेंगे.
मैं इसको क्विकली आंसर कर देता हूँ. जिस तरह से गुल ने बताया कि तो एसएसपी की रिक्वायरमेंट है, इफ यू आर अ पब्लिक लिस्टेड कंपनी, तो वी एक्चुअली हैव टू कंप्लाई विद that particular gender ratio. All the companies has to do that. Secondly, what we did at our organization is that we made sure that in each of our management committee for any division, because we are a big organization, we have several management committees, we made sure that there is a reasonable female representation there. And our diversity and HR function are the custodians of that particular initiative, and they make sure that all the management committees and all the decision-making committees or groups, whenever they are formed, there is a reasonable number of females added into it, because we are a big organization. We have a lot of females at managerial or above positions.
ठीक है जी, थैंक यू. आपसे सवाल आया है, in our commitment to diversity and inclusion, what specific programs, this is from Vakas. So he's saying what specific programs uh, are taking the measures, what specific programs is HR department, you know, undertaking to ensure a diverse and inclusive workplace? What specific programs do you have to ensure a diverse and inclusive workplace?
I
Already mentioned, yeah,
yeah, I mentioned earlier.
but just for Vakas's,
Yeah, just a one-liner onto it. We are just doing all the basic things like providing transportation to females, planning a good daycare facility for them because now the females want a state-of-the-art facility for their kids so that they could bring in. Just having a childcare room is not enough because nobody brings their kids to an ordinary childcare room. Now the standards are also changed. Secondly, when it comes to actually providing them flexible hours and understanding the female related matters, we have policies over them. However, if you talk about the specific initiative that we have taken, this year we were more focused on actually improving the workplace environment for females and also actually we were working on their well-being and overall health and safety. That's why
Right.
our wellness program or the theme of last year or which is about to end 2023 was actually wellness year, and that's why all our initiatives were related to that. So that's all about.
And when you talk about wellness, then of course everyone's a part of it, not just
Yeah, of
females.
course, of course.
So there's
Of
a
course,
comment that
but there's a part of it that actually provides supportive work environment for certain diverse people like gender or PWDs. So we focus on them as well, along with other people.
right. And all three of you have very well also touched upon the fact that there are different groups of people. एक comment आया हुआ है कि ज्यादा खवातीन की बात हुई है. मैं उस पे conclude ये करती जाऊं कि खवातीन की बात इसलिए शायद ज्यादा हो रही है because we are taking steps towards a diverse workplace. We are not already a very diverse workplace or a country. Like Gull also mentioned earlier that we are a total sum of what's happening in the country in this part of the world, and so we are way behind everyone else in the world. However, we are making progress there. Organizations like Gull Ahmed, like EPCL, like DESCON, they're making a lot of progress in this realm. And I think कि हम आगे जाके और बहुत सारी चीजों के बारे में बात करेंगे. But inevitably खवातीन के बारे में बात आ जाती है जब डाइवर्सिटी की बात होती है. जी गुल. And with this we will also be concluding. जी गुल.
So just one last comment, as you very rightly pointed out, Dekho, it's the biggest elephant in the room. 52% females outside, and what percentage is inside the organization? So automatically, this is the first place that we need to begin with. जो whataboutism आ जाता है बीच में. जब ब्लैक लाइफ मैटर्स का नारा लगा था तो एक साथ नारा लगा था ऑल लाइव्स मैटर. सो ट्रू, ऑल लाइव्स मैटर, ऑल सॉर्ट्स ऑफ डाइवर्सिटीज मैटर, बट राइट नाउ लेट्स फिक्स इन समथिंग व्हिच कैन हेल्प द country's GDP grow. If 52% of your population is not part of formal economy, and I'd like to say formal economy because खेतों में औरतें बहुत ज्यादा काम करती हैं, मर्दों से ज्यादा काम करती हैं और ज्यादा मेहनत का काम करती हैं, but that's part of informal economy. So if 52% of your population is not contributing to your formal economy, then just imagine where the country's GDP is going to go. So I think let's stay a bit away from whataboutism. We all understand as organizations that all sorts of diversity is important, but this I feel is the biggest elephant in the room as of now.
Right. And are working on
I just
all
want to
sorts
add
of
one, Muzna, I just want to add one word to what Zareen just said, is that it's a low-hanging fruit.
हाँ, बिल्कुल.
It's a low-hanging fruit.
हाँ,
we can easily do that.
Yeah.
As compared to other times.
Let's first pluck this one and eat the fruit and then move on to the next one. However, alongside we are trying to work on a diverse workplace in terms of marginalized communities. PWDs का पहले कहाँ बात होती थी, कोई पोजीशंस नहीं मिलती थी, अब जगह भी मिल रही है और जगहें बनाई जा रही हैं उनके लिए, ट्रेनिंग्स हो रही हैं इन हाउस उनको अकोमोडेट करने के लिए. All of that is happening. I would like to thank you guys so very much. Maisa, thank you so much. Wasif, Gull, I really appreciate you all coming here. This was such a nice conversation. अच्छा लगता है जब आप लोग ऑर्गेनाइजेशन में सब काम करते हैं और यहाँ आके बताते हैं. पार्टिसिपेंट्स का मैं बहुत शुक्रिया अदा करूंगी. आप सबने ज्वाइन किया और बहुत गौर से सुना. आई सी अशरफ तो सबसे ज्यादा गौर से सुन रहे हैं यहाँ पे सामने. So thank you so much everyone. Thank you for joining in. I'll see you guys in the next webinar that we arrange. Really appreciate you joining in. If any other questions that are left unanswered, आप Learning Minds को भेज सकते हैं and we will have these people answer those questions and send the answers back to you guys. Thank you.
Thank you
Have
so
a
much,
lovely
everyone.
weekend, everyone.
Thank you so much, Muzna. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Have a lovely weekend.
Thank you
Bye-bye.
so much, Muzna and Learning Minds and the fellow panelists. Thank you so much. Learned a lot.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Bye-bye.